Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance to contribute to this debate. This is the second last budget, the second last of the 12 Parliament. And as we debate about 3.03 trillion shillings budget, out of which 1.29 trillion is on recurrent, there are several fundamental questions that we must ask ourselves as a Parliament and as a country. The President gave a directive on this lion or this elephant called pending bills. And Madam Speaker, one of the reasons why we are opposed to government doing domestic borrowing is because that domestic borrowing crowds out other borrowers that we want to borrow from the commercial banks and therefore grow SMEs and even grow personal businesses. But on the other hand, the same government that is trusted and someone knows if they give it money in terms of a treasury bond, a treasury bill, they are sure they'll get a return on it, is the same government that people are doing business for and getting years without being paid and them being auctioned. As a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, we made it clear that these state departments, these ministries must prioritize as per the PFM Act, making sure that the pending bills have been paid. And therefore, I'll say, Madam Speaker, having done our part as a committee of budget, we hope that the accounting officers will respect the law, will respect our report, will respect the PFM Act, respect the Constitution, and nobody should be auctioned because they did business for the government, Madam Speaker. We have very many stalled projects in this country. And the question begs, why then do we have a planning department? So why then do we get to that point where work has been, money has been invested, someone has been on site, and then the person who gets bashed is us members of Parliament. If our project in my constituency, like the Njoro Molo Road, and money is not sent on time, then it is us that get to suffer the wrath of Wananchi. So my hope is that the existing projects, those projects that the government has undertaken to do, that has procured, that the accounting officers are going to be accountable enough, they're going to respect the rule of law, and that those projects will going to be completed and completed on time. Because in the case, Madam Speaker, it saves the country money, it saves the country time, and it's true use of value for money for the taxpayer. I've often said, Madam Speaker, that Kenyans are not afraid and do not refuse to pay taxes. Kenyans are not even afraid of us taking loans, but they are afraid of what this money gets to do. So as long as the rubber meets the road, and that money is put in the right choice, and these great plans that we've put up are done and done properly and on time, then we'll not hear uproar when taxes are increased or when even that borrowing is increased, Madam Speaker. We try to address several issues in our report, especially on the issue of duplication of functions. We find programs that are very wonderful for young people, like the KO program, like the Youth Fund, like the Kazi Mtaani. But you find all these initiatives that are supposed to deal with the issue of unemployment and putting money into the pocket of Wanjiku, and especially of the young suffering Kenyans out there, is staggered in different state departments. And although all these programs are meant to one thing, to shield our young people against unemployment, to make sure they have food on the table, they are scattered all over state departments that becomes difficult to sometimes implement or even track the effectiveness. And therefore, we are calling in our report, we've said all these initiatives, whether it's an initiative to support women, whether it's an initiative to support young people, whether it is our old people program, let them be under one state department, let them have one funding so that we can even benefit from economies of scale, Madam Speaker. In our report, we have emphasized and reallocated money for the need of funding capitation to private universities. Because, Madam Speaker, as we speak, the students that did their KCSE a few months ago, they get admission letter to the universities. They do not choose whether they want to go to a public university or a private university. So that student case who is admitted at Strathmore University or at DESTA or at Kenyatta University or at whichever other university in this country, the money for their capitation must be released and released on time. And Madam Speaker, we've even been able to see, which also means that the Ministry of Higher Education should sit down and think, how is it that it's even cheaper to educate our students in private universities more than it is to educate them in public universities. That means the cost structure of our universities, we need to sit down and rethink their funding method and rethink how we are going to save money and ensure that at least there is value for money. But I insist that money that is supposed to be for capitation for our students in private universities must be released on time as it is for public universities, because in any case, those students do not necessarily choose to be there. There are several initiatives that have been made to deal with the issue of unemployment. And one of them, through a bill that came through last parliament, through the Young Parliamentary Association, was a national employment bill that was signed into act by the president. This is the first time that we've seen a budgetary allocation to National Employment Authority. And you're hoping that the National Employment Authority will raise to the occasion, that they're going to empower our youth people with capacity building, and that a young person who completes a particular course, who completes a particular training, will have a place, a shoulder to cry on, a government institution that they can go and hoping and be sure that they're going to be placed in some employment. Because, Madam Speaker, our young people are crying. You find graduates out in the village, they're doing very many jobs without employment. And yet, through the wisdom of this House, we passed the National Employment Bill into an act, and we have now put that money to that commission, and you're hoping that they're going to help address this issue. The issue about commercial attaches in foreign ministries have been said. There is a lot of potential of employment overseas. And when we recommend that there must be a budgetary allocation for commercial attaches in these institutions so that we do not leave the employment of young people in these overseas countries to bureaus that go exploiting them. If we employ enough commercial attaches, then you don't need to go through a private bureau to go and work in Saudi Arabia. You do not think to go through a private bureau and pay a lot of money and be exploited to go and work in Qatar and all these other countries. And you're hoping that the recommendations made by this committee and by this House will be taken into consideration, that these commercial attaches are going to be recruited and our young people are going to be assisted to get employment in these foreign countries. Madam Speaker, at the committee stage, we had a challenge of allocating money whether for infrastructure projects or for employment of teachers. And as a committee, we were clear that when you employ teachers in this country, you solve three problems. You solve the great problem of unemployment. You solve the second problem of quality of education. Because no matter how many classes we build, as long as there are not teachers in those classrooms to teach those students, then we will not have an educated generation. So employing more teachers by the Teacher Service Commission will ensure that we have solved the problem of unemployment, will ensure that we have quality education, and most importantly, Madam Chair, these teachers pay taxes, and therefore it's going to lead to an increase in our revenues, Madam Speaker. Lastly, we cannot have a budget that does not allocate money for emergencies. We cannot have people doing harambes when people drown because of floods. We must allocate money for emergencies so that we're able to take care of emergencies when they happen in this country. And with that, I support Madam Speaker.